Hello?
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, this is Angie.
All right, everyone, we're about to start in a little bit. Just want you to know that we are live right now, so we can hear everything you're saying. All right, if you mute your mics, and we'll let you know how to proceed. All right, let me count down.
This time I'd like to call the National Rocky Mountain Board of Education to order. I'm called the roll to see whether or not we have a quorum. Lang Dunn. Please answer. Lang Dunn. Chris Hook.
Chairman?
LaShonda Washington.
Here.
Franklin?
Yes.
It's Mike.
Okay, thank you, Lang. Oliver Chavis.
Here.
Ann Ed. Dean Edwards.
Dean's here.
Bill Sharp. Reggie Silver.
Easy.
Reggie Silver. At this point, we do have a quorum. I'd like everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Frank, you didn't call my name, but I'm here. I didn't hear you call my name, rather.
Do you answer present?
No, I didn't.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
To the Republic, which is
under God, indivisible, with liberty and
liberty
justice.
and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda this time.
So moved.
Motion by Chris Bissett, second by Donovan Chavis. All in favor say aye.
Ah,
All opposed, motion carried. Approval of consent agenda, Ms. Edge is not here, so I'm gonna read them. Number 1, 5.1, mental health support staff and school resource officers for information only by Mr. Farrow. 5.2, CTE pathway updates, Mr. Thompson. Number 3, middle school CTE exploration, Mr. Thompson. Number 4, K3 class size update, Melissa Nancy Smith. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Bullock, second by Ricky Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Motion carried. Business items, communications, planning, and engagement. Dr. Catalano.
Yes.
Oh, minutes, I'm sorry, minutes.
Number 4, approval of board minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve board minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Chavis, second by Mr. Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carried. Now we're down to business items. Dr. Catalano.
Okay, we have got donations. Good evening, Board Chair Lamb, Superintendent Dr. Ellis, and members of the board. I am here before you with donations. Strategic Priority 6, engaged and connected community, this falls under. A donation letter is provided to the Board of Education listing all donations to the Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools valued at more than $200. This is in keeping and compliant with policy 8220, gifts and bequests. The total fiscal implication for these donations this month is $10,469.52. Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools received the following donations. Revised Steakhouse of Nashville donated $250 and $300 in gift cards to be used for the Teacher and Principal of the Year celebration. Capital Broadcasting Company donated $500 to be used for the Teacher and Principal of the Year celebration, Evening of Academic Excellence, and Evening of the Arts. Baskerville Elementary School received a donation from Suddenlink Altice of $500 to be used for STEM and social studies supplies. Edwards Middle School, Southern Nash Middle School, Nash Central Middle School, and Red Oak Middle School received the following donation. STEP donated 4 3D printers and extra filament, one for each school, valued at $8,919.52. The superintendent recommends approval of all donations as presented.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve with great thanks and appreciation.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Chavis, second by Ms. Washington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Motion carried. Policy proposals, Dr. Catalano.
I am here before you tonight with 19 total policy revisions that went to the Board Policy Committee. 1 district-initiated revision, Policy 9300, and 14 North Carolina School Board Association policies, policy revisions. The Nash Rocky Mount Board of Education Policy Committee recommends the acceptance of the policies for first reading.
I would entertain a motion to approve the policy proposal.
I move that we approve the policies as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bullock, second by Mr. Edwards. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, likewise. Motion carried. Thank you, Dr. Catalano. Nash Community College Board of Trustee appointment. Board members, I received a letter a little while ago about the reappointment of Mr. Russell Proctor to the Nash Community College Board of Trustees from Chairman Jaber, Paul Jaber. Mr. Proctor has expressed a desire to continue serving, and his present term expires on June 30th, 2020. Mr. Proctor was appointed by the National Rocky Mount Board of Education in 2016 to fill the unexpired term of Mrs. Patricia Weeks. He presently serves as chairman of the Finance Committee, as well as membership on the Audit, Building and Grounds, and Legislative Committees. Mr. Proctor's financial background and expertise is an asset to the college. I believe consistency and leadership, especially during a presidential transition, will enable the board to continue working with the school system and champion our productive partnership. Thank you for your support and consideration, Paul Jacob. I will entertain a motion to reappoint Mr. Russell Proctor to the National Community Board Trustees. Motion by Mr. Visit, second by Ms. Jenkins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Unanimous. Human Resources, Ms. Privet.
Good evening, Board. I request your permission to approve the Personnel Actions Report that was presented tonight in closed session.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Evelyn,
Ms. Bullock made the motion. LaShonda Washington, second.
No.
All in favor say aye.
Donovan Chavis.
Donovan.
Donovan Chavis, second. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Student Services, Mr. Farrow.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb, members of the board, Dr. Ellis. I come before you to present information regarding COVID-19, the remote learning and operations update. Strategic priorities are priority 1, high student achievement. Priority 3, 21st century professionals. Priority 4, 21st century tools and systems. Priority 5, transparent organizational culture, effective use of resources. The departments that's a part of this presentation: student support services, curriculum and instruction, technology, communications, child nutrition, maintenance, transportation, human resources, and finance. Information will be shared with the Board of Education by members from each department concerning their department's operational roles during the COVID-19 remote learning process. I will begin with student support services. The role of our school nurses during this process have been attending virtual meetings, that's virtual staff meeting, virtual nurses meeting, where they are still working on policy, forms, procedures, where they're reviewing their revisions, assessing student immunization records by identifying students who will need required immunization for the 2021 school year, and making preparations for applicable parent notifications. They're updating health modules in NC Power School. They're available as health medical resource for principals, school staff, parents, students, and others. They're assisted in the surveillance of the COVID-19. They're working with principal members of our school and believe that they've been in contact with or showing symptoms. They're working with our school nurses to get notification of what needs to happen for that particular staff member. Our school nurses are also maintaining virtual office school hours to help students and parents, other school staff as well, and updating individualized student health records electronically. They're updating the health section in cumulative records, inventorying health room supplies, identifying items that qualify for healthcare workers in crisis. They are completing the district and state end of year student health data reports that are due at the end of each year. And they're assisting in virtual and other distribution of updated COVID-19 information to schools and in the community, and staying updated on the COVID-19 crisis. School social workers, they're participating in Google Hang meetings and virtual professional development webinars. They're following up with email referrals from teachers, principals, other community agencies about students and their families that schools have not been able to contact. Continuing to make contact with parents and school staff as needed by phone, email. We have them at this time doing very limited home visits. We want to make sure that they're safe as well. Continue to make contact with displaced home families or homeless families while making resource referrals as needed to various community agencies. They're working closely with both the Nash County and Edgecombe County Departments of Social Services to assist with students in DSS custody and foster care. And they're sharing community resources that are available for families, such as mental health services, food services, and et cetera. They as well are maintaining virtual office hours and school hours to help students and staff. Mental health supports that we have on the table still assisted in the organization of ongoing mental health services for students and their families through Yoderon, Progressive, and OIC mental health agencies. They're communicating with Trillium, which is Nash County mental health provider, and East Point, which is Edgecombe County mental health provider, to update schools, families concerning any changes in the mental health services process. Organizing virtual resiliency professional development for staff. That was the professional development that all approved that were, we were given staff members that came through the grant that we received this school year. So we're still moving forward with that professional development virtually, providing digital, social, emotional lessons and mental health resources for parents and families. They're collaborating with other student support staff to provide mental health referrals to various agencies. And they're collaborating with other student support staff to assist students and families during suicidal ideation or threats to others. Any questions for me? Student support service.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Farrow? Information only. Thank you, Mr. Farrow.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb and to Dr.
We can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? All right. All right, good evening. All right, so if you can't hear me, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Good. All right. So represent the technology department. All right, yeah, so what we're doing, I would like to say that I am very proud with the technology team. I really feel like we've made gains in support of this COVID-19 crisis. When the cabinet began to plan for remote learning and decided to send devices home to grades 3 through 5, my team actually, they went to work. They touched over 3,800 devices, completing a health check on each of those devices for damages. They log into each one of them, making sure that our students are able to log in. So we completed this task in 1 week, and I would like to say that I'm very proud of this team and pleased with the work that they've done. If you look at the slide, some of the points that the big rocks that we wanted to point out today, because of this deployment of sending devices home to students and parents are not able to come to the schools. So what we've done, we have successfully launched a technology help desk. And what this does is allow our students, our staff to call in, they can email and ask for any kind of help that they need in regards to technology. And I think it's been going very good thus far. One of the things that I'm very glad about is we have a 3CX IP phone system. And this is the phone system that we approved, you guys approved over 2 years ago. This phone system will allow our teachers and staff to answer and make calls remotely. So this means that they don't have to use their personal phone numbers. So they can make calls, and when they make these calls, it comes from the school. So the number shows up to the parents and it comes to the school. So these are remote, or you can call it virtual calls. So I really think that this was a win-win. One of the greatest deployments and things that I'm very happy about with this whole crisis is that we have deployed a total of 9,000 devices across our entire district. I think this is very big. I've had been in meetings across the state with other districts, and they have not been able to deploy this amount of devices. I thought this is really good, and the technology team needs to be supported here. Let's break that down. Middle and high school, if you see those numbers, they already have 7,900 devices that they currently take home. And the elementary, to today, 1085 of the 3,800 computers that we prepared are sent home to those students grades 3 through 5. And as I said, the big rock today is 9,000 devices is deployed over our National Rocky Mount students to date. And that's all I have today.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. First, I would like to thank your staff. That's awesome. And I think one thing that you did not add, they actually clean these with alcohol before they go out.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask this question. Are there any kind of backup or supports for homes that don't have internet currently? Are there any companies that are offering discounts or free service during this crisis time? And if so, how do parents get in touch? Because I've had 3 to call.
Okay. On our learning website, remote learning website, on the very first page, if you go to our National Rocky Mount website, if you go to the very top on the right-hand side, you should see remote learning. Once you click, and on that very companies that are offering free internet service for families. However, I just must be honest with you about that. Some of these companies have bitten off more than they can chew. So a lot of them are really backing out of these deals because they really can't hold it up, So, we can take a chance there, but that is where the resource is.
Okay, I will share that link. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So Jenkins?
First of all, thank you and your team and your predecessor, Jane Finch, in having all these devices. Second of all, how can you go into some detail on how, if a student has a bad charger or whatever, how they get it replaced and the procedure?
We have spoken with our media coordinators, and we're working with our principals as well. What we're trying to make sure that we put first is safety. And with that being said, we came up with a process. If parents and students need to bring back devices and they are broken, whether it's chargers or whatever it is, what we do is we have them to go through the help desk first, and they troubleshoot any problems that they have. And if the help desk deems that the device needs to be replaced or anything, what we do is then have the parent or student to contact the school. The school had contact the school media coordinator. So that media coordinator will then schedule a time for that parent or student to come out to the school. So with that said, I think we have something in place that the parents cannot come into the building. So what we're allowing, we have crates set up at the entrances of all of the buildings. So when parents come and they dropping those devices off, they're already put those devices in the crate versus it being handed off, so because we don't, we want to put safety first. So there is a process in place that we're going to put on that website, but we wanted to just kind of vet that process through our principals just to make sure that everything works before we put it out there.
No question.
Yes.
a number to the help desk? Is it on the website?
Yes, it is. That same website, if you go to our National Rocky Mountain website, click on remote learning on the far right-hand side. And if you, on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says technology support. There's a phone number as well as an email address and a Google form that our parents, our students can fill out as a help desk, support ticketing and all that. So that information is there.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Excuse me?
may I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
How many, do you know, Mr. McQueen, how many of our students don't have access to internet? And or how many MiFis have we given out?
Okay, let me go to the MiFis part. We have over 800 MiFis that are deployed only at the high school level because the Sprint 1 million project is only at the high school level. They have opened it up to the K through 8. However, they are on a back order with the MiFi, so we're not able to get those at this time. As far as the amount of students who don't have internet access, that is still being developed. But we've asked our principals to reach out to all the students to find out if they have internet access. So I have those numbers. I need to complete the compilation of it, and I can get that to you maybe tomorrow or the day after.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. McQueen.
Thank you. So you can see it.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Ellis. So this evening, I would like to talk through remote learning with you. First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our teachers, our principals, our staffs in the buildings. It's just been amazing to see these folks work from day one and really dive into what is needed. I mean, it's just unbelievable because they didn't take 1 minute off. They actually, as soon as they heard of this closing, they jumped into it. And we are very proud of our staff. Our students working hard, and they're working to get acclimated to remote learning. So today we're going to break this up in 2 sessions. I'm going to do phase 1, and Ms. Nancy Smith will finish up with phase 2 and 3. So first of all, phase 1 actually ran from March 15th through March 30th. And basically we concentrated on review and retention for those 2 weeks. And then, as you know, we were extended as days out of school. So right now we are currently in phase 2, which is March 31st through April the 9th. Here we are exposing students to new learning and looking at priority standards. This will also be the case in phase 3, which is April the 20th through May 15th. I did put a link. So Dr. Catalano clicked on it earlier. So the link to the remote learning site is on our webpage. And that link was worked on from day 1 as well. And so I'd like to thank Danny Fowler for really working as far as the technical instructional technician on that. But if you notice, there are things from student expectations to teacher expectations. It goes through high school, middle school, elementary resources. We have a one-stop shop there, hopefully that will help our parents and our teachers. Our principals have contributed to it as far as their plans. You can see that as well. So it is a very neat site for our students, and this is a living document, a living site, so we're going to continue to update that as needed. So let me go ahead and talk through phase 1 and some things that we've really focused on. So one thing is teachers created learning opportunities via online packets so students could continue learning through review and retention. they actually really, teachers, even though they are, especially at the secondary level, elementary is even, and Mr. Nancy Smith taught through, even more difficult because they are not 100% used to teaching online or either doing things online with their students. So it's amazing that they really picked up the online idea and moved with it. So they really worked on those online sessions and packets during these first 2 weeks. Also, this page was created, which we talked through. Also, principals, teachers, and staff worked diligently to set up options for students to access resources. So that first 2 weeks, there were quite a few resources that were put out there immediately as far as where parents could go and look for things related to subjects with ELA, math, and science, social studies, and all of our subjects. So they worked through that as well. One thing that was very impressive was our teachers delving into remote learning platforms. Right now, you've probably heard of Zoom, which we're on right now, Google Classroom, working through even telephone conferences and working through things like Google Hangout. So our teachers have worked hard at trying to learn those platforms. Some of them had been using some of those platforms before with Google, but the Zoom and some of the other ones were new to those teachers. Principals and our staff members identified how many students did not have Wi-Fi, which Mr. McQueen alluded to earlier. That was one of the things we pushed out first, is find out how many of our students do not have Wi-Fi, because we really wanted to know, because we needed to know how many would need online learning versus packet learning. And we're continuing to work on that and build that as well. Teachers created learning packets that mirrored online instruction if our students were not able to access Wi-Fi. So we tried to mirror those packets with online learning so that we could work on the equity piece and making sure that all our students continue learning and reviewing. And then lastly, our staff members were asked to contact families to check in on their well-being, because we thought in those first 2 weeks, this is something new. We really wanted to look at their well-being and know how they're doing. As we know, and Ms. Miller will talk later about lunches and so forth, and we were very excited about our staff reaching out and being caring and loving to our students. So what I want to do now is, and after Ms. Nancy Smith finishes up, we'll come back to some questions, but I want to turn it over to Ms. Nancy Smith now to talk through phase 2 and 3.
Superintendent Ellis, and to all other board members. Mr. Thompson shared with you that we divided our remote plan into 3 phases. He's talked to you about phase 1. I will talk to you about phases 2 and 3. Phase 2 actually began last Tuesday, and it runs until this Thursday. So what does phase 2 look like? Schedules have been developed so students are aware of when learning is taking places in their classes. Those schedules have been developed by our core teachers, instructional support teachers, which would include EC, AIG, ESL, as well as our elective teachers. Office hours have been created to support families. Teachers have researched and implemented innovative ways to teach outside of brick and mortar. Instructional coaches are supporting teachers daily to ensure that learning packets are aligned to North Carolina standards. Instructional coaches have unpacked the North Carolina standards, and they have identified what we call the big rocks or priority standards that are critical for student success in the upcoming year. When we assessed priority standards, we used 4 prongs. The first was endurance. Endurance is just simply skills that students need to have beyond one single test. We also leveraged skills. We looked at knowledge and skills that would be valuable in multiple disciplines. We looked at readiness, knowledge and skills necessary for success in the next grade level. And we also looked at the EOG and EOC test specifications. Remote learning phase 3, which begins April 20th and ends May 15th. Our instructional coaches, we talked about our instructional coaches have identified our priority standards or the big rocks. Our coaches have actually built content material that match those big rocks. Mr. Thompson shared that we're committed to equity. So what that means is anything that can be accessed digitally, we've ensured that that same quality of resources can be accessed print as well. Principals, teachers, and other support staff will continue to provide daily and weekly check-ins with families as we provide growth-producing feedback and monitor student progress. EC teachers have been embedded day one in our remote learning plan with our regular ed teachers. They have continued to hold IEP meetings and progress monitor IEP goals as to ensure that what is done is appropriate, reasonable, and accessible to all students. We will continue refining with the laser-like focus on skills that will transcend from one content area to the next in the 2020-21 school year. I do want to give a shout out to principals. Our principals have demonstrated courageous leadership, as this is a terrain that we have never actually tried to cross before. Throughout this, they have coordinated with their staffs to ensure that lessons were as rigorous as they could be when teaching remotely. And also, they have learned to plan very uniquely to ensure collaboration across the schools. Are there any questions?
Members, are there any questions at this time?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
How are we monitoring the data of this as far as, we talked about accessibility, that's great. We talked about planning, that's great as far as how our teachers are doing what they're supposed to do. But one of the things that we noticed, one of the things that we knew earlier was the attendance issue. Can you track and determine how many of our kids are actually engaged in this process? And if not, it's good that we're doing all this, but if participation is less than 10, 15, 20%, what are we gaining?
I will address the elementary component and allow Mr. Thompson to come up and speak regarding what the secondary schools are doing, but I do believe it's very similar. We have built a student participation survey, and we've asked all teachers, EC teachers, AIG teachers to complete that survey once a week. And that survey outlines 3 major things: students who participated in remote learning consistently for the week, students who have participated in remote learning, but their participation has been inconsistent for the week, and students who we have attempted to reach out to, but the families have been unresponsive. We have documented that as not participating in remote learning for that week.
So how many families have been unresponsive?
We actually started tracking that information from the district level starting this week. As Mr. Thompson shared, the first 2 weeks were review of material and just checking in with kids socially and emotionally. As we have moved into phase 2, where we are exposing students to new content, that is when we're being more aggressive about ensuring that students are picking up packets and accessing the instructional materials remotely.
So what's the percentage of kids participating in this program?
I do not have it at the district level now, but it should be reported by close of business on Thursday.
So don't you think that's one of the key issues that the team should be addressing when they offset to start this program out, to see the participation? It's great that we can put the plans together, but if it's not reaching those kids that need to be reached, is it just, you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying, but the guidance that we received from DPI was technically the first 2 weeks, which we've identified as phase 1, was to do more to support children socially and emotionally. Now that we've delved into phase 3, we are looking at the academics. We wanted to take care of the whole child first. So meals were very important. Mental health, being able to track our kids down to make sure that they were living well. Again, I do know that the schools will begin reporting participation during phase 2, which would be the end of this week, which would end phase 2.
Follow up with that question. What I'm hearing is these kids will not necessarily be, some of them, or a high percentage of them may not be necessarily ready for the next grade level. Because how are we gonna promote kids when they're not learning?
We believe that statewide, we will have learning gaps. We've begun having conversations with Dr. Ellis regarding booster camps, if the funding is available, but that's something that we're looking at. So to ensure that we don't have too many gaps, that's why we're focused on those priority standards. And those are standards that are vertically articulated from kindergarten to grade 12. So even though the expectations of a kindergarten student in math would look different from a senior in high school, if you look at the standard course of study, a lot of our standards are vertically articulated, particularly in math and in reading.
So
my biggest concern right now is we were not even directed by the state to have anything in place these first 2 weeks.
Right.
We were told not to really start anything new. So we are right now, in my opinion, already 2 weeks ahead of the game. The accountability piece is now something we're gonna have to figure out, because you're right, we gotta find out if kids are doing the work. But that's the conversation we're gonna start having on Tuesday and Thursday. But just remember, that conversation from the state hasn't even started, because we're ahead of the game. And that's, to me, that's the part I'm excited about, because now we can start delving into how do we know a kid's doing their work when other districts are saying, how can I get kids online? So I'm trying to take this in small steps to make sure we get it for remote learning. And now we're going to figure out how many kids are actually online. Then we start deciding, if the state determines is it going to be a pass, fail, withdrawal, how we're going to make that happen in the new school year.
Dr. Ellis.
Yes, sir.
To follow up with that one, as we all know, our schools are at low performing. Are the state willing to relax their standards based on what we're going through right now?
If you're asking my opinion.
Have the state talked about it? DOP talked about it?
They talked about not having the test, but when it comes to relaxing the standards, I don't think that'll be done, because that would have to be done through General Assembly. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either, which alludes to my point about if we're being tested based on what our kids' knowledge, and if they're not participating in these programs, it's gonna be extremely hard for us to pull out low performers.
Right, which goes back to what Ms. Nancy Smith said about trying to make sure we are giving some of that summer camp money, some booster, something that we got to figure out to assess when these kids get back, where are they now and move forward. Because you're right, it's hard to get this time back, but we got to have a plan that when they do come back, we need to find out where they stand right now.
Dr. Ellis.
Mr. Jenkins got a question.
Once y'all figure out who the non-responsive parents and kids and everything are, well, are y'all gonna put in some place, some protocol that the teachers can follow? Because there's no need in calling 4 and 5 times when you get hung up on the first 2 times. Are you gonna have something these teachers can follow in regards to protocol? I mean, so they won't be spinning their wheels on someone who's not responsive, and then you got others that are responsive that they can continue to teach.
What Mr. Thompson and I have discussed is unless a child has withdrawn from our district, even if they are unresponsive, it's incumbent upon teachers to still try to make contact with them, but to provide documentation to the principal that they have reached out to the families, that they're unresponsive, and also connect the family with the school social worker.
I have a question. Dr. Ellis.
Okay.
Dr. Ellis, has not a waiver been granted to districts so they can waive the testing for accountability for this year?
Yes, they have for this year, but I'm not sure that that's going to be, it's going to be in play next year.
Right. But for this year, we don't have to worry about whether or not our kids pass a standardized test.
Correct.
Since they've not been in school. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You're right, but the issue's still going to be, so we didn't give them a test this year. However, 2 or 3 months of school, they weren't getting instruction.
Right.
And Ms. Bullock.
Yes,
we
sir.
got the gap question, the gap.
I think Ms. Bullock follow with that. Yeah, they'll be waived for this year, but they can't gather what they've already lost. So next year will not be waived.
Right.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Ellis, but I don't think that they've actually developed protocols for what we will do this year, much less think about how we will assess learning next year. They've not gotten that far yet, have they?
No, they haven't. They haven't.
So we just have to wait to see what the state board and DPI come up with. And then we can see how we can best help our children.
Correct.
I think with us, Ms. Bullock, we just look at past history, what they've done in the past. It's DPI in the state.
But we're under a new circumstance altogether.
I totally understand. I totally understand. The people have not changed. The circumstances have, but the people haven't.
Any other questions? Any other questions at this point? I would like to thank our department, Central Office, for what they're doing. Our students have got to take up, they got to hold their end of the line also.
Right.
The thing right now is make sure they are fed and are safe. We'll worry about the repercussions. We got the learning tools out there and getting more proficient each day. Thank you for what you're doing.
Amen.
Ms. Miller.
Ms.
Privet.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Ellis. I would like to commend our Human Resources Department for all the work that they've done with, just going above and beyond, making sure that we're still providing great customer service during this unique time for all of us. I have outlined each area of our department, and I'm going to start with new hire orientation. We are using a virtual platform called Blend Space to host new hire orientations. It allows us to do voiceovers for presentations and add instructional videos, so we can still cover our board policies, payroll information, benefits, and licensure information. For meetings, we are conducting all meetings virtually using different platforms. Unemployment benefits. As of today, 78 employees have filed for unemployment benefits. Unemployment benefits is available to all employees who have not been offered work. Most of our employees have been offered work. Employees who have been offered work but declined it are not eligible for unemployment benefits, and these employees must work or use earned leave to be paid. State of emergency leave, state of emergency sick leave. This leave was presented to us by the state, and it's paid leave available April 1st through the 30th, and it defines 3 groups of employees. Mandatory employees are our essential employees who are directed by their supervisor to report to work at a designated work site other than their personal residence at regular and specific dates and times. In most circumstances, mandatory employees are not eligible for telework or remote work options. The second group of employees is non-mandatory employees. These are employees who have not been directed by their supervisor to report to work on site at any particular date and time. They will be assigned work and will be expected to telework if feasible, given the nature of their duties. Third group is our group called high-risk employees. And this is any employee who is age 65 and over, or has an underlying health condition, or has a weakened immune system, or is caring for someone who is high risk. So who is eligible to be paid for this leave? Mandatory or non-mandatory employees who cannot work because they have child care or elder care needs due to COVID-19 related facility closing. Mandatory employees who cannot work because they are high risk and who have not been assigned alternate telework duties. Non-mandatory employees who cannot perform their duties remotely as determined by their supervisor. Any mandatory or non-mandatory employee who is sick due to symptoms consistent with COVID-19 or who are caring for a dependent with such symptoms, or a healthcare provider has advised the employee to self-quarantine due to concerns of COVID-19. Employees cannot apply for unemployment benefits and the emergency sick leave. They must select the best option for them. Currently, we have 6 employees as of today that are eligible for this leave. We've had quite a few to apply. However, we do require documentation to be submitted along with their leave form. If they are submitting it because of child care or elder care facilities being closed, we just ask that they take a picture of the close sign and submit that as documentation. If they are submitting it for an underlying healthcare concern or some other medical reason, we just ask that they submit medical documentation with that. Are there any questions?
Ms. Privet,
Yes.
regarding the unemployment benefits, where they can sign for unemployment, I was trying to go back to that slide, but I couldn't pull it up. Yes. Now that unemployment benefit package there, will they also receive the federal additional monies? The $600 that the federal government is giving out for the unemployment, one time?
It is my understanding that that money is available to all who have been approved for unemployment benefits.
So these people have been approved, these 7, 8 people have been approved for that benefit.
No, not all 78. 78 have applied.
Okay.
We have,
Wow.
we've offered work to most employees. So some of this 78, and I don't have the exact number, have been offered work but declined it. So they will not be eligible for this benefit. And as we receive those, we have to document it accordingly to say that they have been offered work. However, they have declined the work.
May I ask a question? I want to make sure I understand. I've had a parent call me who was offered work, but however, she does have a stage child who now has no daycare, normally did not need it. So does she not apply or fit in that or exception?
It sounds like she may need to apply for the state of emergency sick leave. That sounds like it may be more fitting for her.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Privet.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Ms. Miller?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll just take a moment and share with you a few things as it relates to school nutrition. We have 17 sites at this time that are open. And of those 17, I think you'll see them listed here. Nash Central High, we have not publicized because we're using that for bus transport. Our numbers excelled so quickly that we needed a quicker way to get them on the buses and keep them out of the traffic of the parents coming through. As you see here, the first 3 days, we were at over 9,000 plates. The second week, 46,000. And at this point, last week on Friday, 57,000 plates. When they make a stop, it's the drive-through service. They don't even have to get out of the vehicle. Some choose to, but they don't have to get out. They get their breakfast and their lunch. And it is provided for whatever the number of the students that they share with the individual that is collected. We keep a tally sheet. At this point, we're serving more meals with less sites and at a much faster pace than we have in the past. I have to say to you that the child nutrition family has been unbelievable, and they have done it with a smile on their face. You should see the kids when they get there and see the ladies that are bending over backwards for them and coming to work at 6 and 6:30 in the mornings and working until 2:30 and 3. At the child nutrition office, central office, we've been there every day. When I tell them that, guys, we can rotate, and we have a large warehouse, so, and many of you have been there. Our guys have worked tirelessly to get the stuff to the warehouse, then get it to the schools as needed, rotated as needed. They have been unbelievable. We have been using our regular distributors with working through our school nutrition warehouse and using all of our freezer space and cooler space. We are using, we're purchasing items even from local stores. We've run out of to-go plates. We've been inventive, and DPI has allowed us to use plates and turn them over and put rubber bands on them. And we've done everything we can to get them what they need. And we have put in an application to be able to modify our meals if we run out of food, so that at this point, we've not put a limit on the number we serve in a day. We just limited the individual. For example, if I drive up and say I need, I have 5 students, they'll give me 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches each day. We have told them that they will not provide more than 10 per family unless the family notifies us of their need, and they provide us with the student ID number so we can verify that that many people are living in the home. And we've only had 2 incidences, and they were daycares, and we provided food for them as well. So it's been, I just want to take a minute and tell you how proud I am of the child nutrition staff. They've been amazing. The principals have been amazing, and the ones that have been trying to help us. So I'm very thankful.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Miller, Mr. Jenkins?
Ms. Miller, y'all are doing a great job. I don't try to eavesdrop on anybody's conversation, but it sounded like, listening to Dr. Ellis, that what are they gonna do next week with spring break?
Sure. So I meant to say that next week we pondered that, and actually in the time it took me to come home this afternoon, I did get a little bad news, which I don't even want to share with you because we got a plan B. I try to have a plan B and C for everything. We had a little delay on some of our food this week, and we just got notified this evening. But we have a lot of food in the warehouse, so we're going to just rotate. And my crowd at the central office at Child Nutrition will be taking it out. At this point, this Thursday, we'll be providing double. So, for example, if someone tells me that they have 2 students at home, we're going to provide them breakfast and lunch for those students for Thursday and Friday as well. So we're going to pre-serve them for Friday since it's a holiday. So we'll be doubling up on some of our staff just to accommodate that at this point. We are going to work Monday through Friday next week. If you're probably aware that if my staff does not work, they do not get paid. So they were given the option to take annual leave or work, and they could sign up if they'd like to, and they will get paid for that. So we're going to serve all 5 days at the exact same open sites. We've made one small modification at one of our sites to bring a bus there to provide the food instead of opening the cafeteria, because with less manpower, we can't actually get the food to where it needs to be around to the other side of the building. But our same sites will be open, and we've sent connected calls out and posted it up that we're going to run a full staff as long as everybody's healthy and well, and we feel good about it. Shannon has helped us get custodians to help out with that. Brian has helped us to get the bus people are going to be our bus drivers will be driving and providing transportation next week, just like they have for all of our students that have had needs and our high volumes of traffic with our bus routes. So we've done that starting the second day of this incident. We've been serving just about everybody in our district.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
So to make that clear, you will continue to serve breakfast and lunch over the Easter break.
Yes, sir. We're going to do everything next week. Yes, sir.
I think that's great, and that's something the newspapers need to make sure they pick up on.
Certainly.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Dr.
Shaw.
Ellis. Dr. Ellis.
Yes, sir.
Just to piggyback on what was just said, is this program a part of the program that you talked with the community leaders involvement?
Yes, sir. The issue with that is we can't use those facilities now based on the new order of selective sites and things of that nature. We can only be at schools now. So we had to send an email out about that because we can't use churches for hot spots and meal delivery now because of the new order. That's why it was important for us to make sure we fed during spring break.
So we only have access to schools now, you're saying?
Correct.
Dr. Ellis, may I share one more thing?
Right ahead.
So we appreciate all the help from the Y, the daycare. They've been calling us and or churches. If there are students there, we're able to provide and or bus food wherever need be. And we've publicized our phone number for them to call, and our office has been wonderful in meeting those needs, as well as Brian has helped us with getting them to where they needed to go through the bus drivers. We can't actually, we're trying to be careful. We've had lots of people to volunteer to their time, but to meet all of our needs and to meet all the federal guidelines and to keep us keep our sanitation grades in the kitchen, our ladies are having to be the ones that work behind the line. We can have people that are already approved as volunteers provide help getting them to and from cars. We've had a tremendous amount of outreach in the community, and we appreciate that. But at this time, we're doing all that we can to help our child nutrition team to work, and they know where the needs are, and it's worked out really well working with them and the principals.
Mr. Sharp, when the order came about with essential services, that's why I called Mr. Malone, because we needed to make sure we had clarification as to, did that include the assistance of churches, if we were gonna do hotspots, things of that nature. So Mr. Malone, in our conversation, thought the best thing to do is allow schools to take part in that. And we would handle that part based on that order of essential services.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, Mr. Miller? Thank you. Mr. Leakey?
Good evening. So right now we're using 9 buses and 2 vans or pickups to deliver food throughout the district. And as people let schools know that, they have individual families, multiple kids that we can't reach, we do our best to get those added to a route. Typically we can do it the next day. We're taking it to the homeless areas that we have students that we know need it. We also have about 28 buses, I think 29 actually today, that are also delivering the learning packets to the kids who do not have access. And that changes every week. We're delivering somewhere in the 1,200 packet range a week to these kids, and just trying to do what we can to support. We're working about 60 or so drivers and monitors with these efforts. And we also have, I think, 5 or 6 that are helping paint classrooms with Shannon and maintenance. So everybody's, doing what they can to help and going the extra mile and just trying to help the kids.
Anybody have any questions?
How many bus drivers are out of work?
I've only have probably about 8 or so that have asked to work that we don't have anything for them. The rest of them have not indicated they wanted to work.
Okay, so there are people that are asking to work, but there's nothing for them to do?
That's correct. I've got 3 people, for instance, on these buses delivering food, plus a child nutrition person. It's just not room to put the body count. It makes it ineffective. And as we get them, we use them, as we can. There are people who worked one day and just didn't want to do that, interaction with the public, so they declined it from there on out.
Is there any more painting they can do?
Right now, Shannon is full on that front just because he doesn't want to bring 5 people in at one time that he doesn't know they can keep the paint on the wall or the floor. So every couple of days he's asking if we got anybody else. So we're offering that to people as he tells us he has a need. And we've got a couple people out cleaning out buses already, kind of pre-summer work, getting all the stuff stuck between the seats and whatnot out of it. So we're working them in that capacity as well.
Question. To follow up on Mr. Dean's, that's a great question, Dean. Can we're utilizing maintenance folks as outsourced, correct? Some of them are still doing that work?
Some.
And I guess the question is, can we utilize our bus drivers to do some of that work as well?
That's where we're using them to paint right now.
What about clean side? If
Mr.
they're
Sharp,
willing to do that work.
Mr. Sharp, this is Shannon.
Yes, sir.
We currently are getting ready to start in April 20th on starting the summer cleaning process.
Yes, sir.
But currently we are paying Beck. They are the contracted firm who are cleaning our campuses. We have 129 custodians. And they're currently have been desanitizing the classrooms, but we do not have the workload or the need for that work. We may be able to bring a few on once we start the 20th and moving furniture out of classrooms, and may be able to add a few more at that time.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Good evening. These are just a few items that the custodians and maintenance services are working on during this time. As I just mentioned, we are enhanced cleaning and disinfecting classrooms and high traffic areas daily as staff coming in and out of the building. We will be starting summer cleaning of classrooms starting April 20th, which I could take on some more possible bus drivers and taking furniture in and out of classrooms. From the maintenance side, we're currently painting, started our summer projects there. As Mr. Lemke said, we have taken on 6 painters. I could possibly take on a few more, but I like to get the ones we have trained. I have 1 paint foreman at each site, so I don't want more painters being trained than we can look after. But I could possibly take on a few more here in the next couple of weeks. Our work order loads have been reduced to less than 90. Northern Nash Bus parking lot in phase 1 of the student parking lot has been resurfaced. We're currently renovating the HVAC system, LED lighting and suspended ceilings in the office complex at Northern Nash High School. Today we removed the bleachers at Edwards Middle School gym in preparation for new bleachers being installed next week. We're also installing a canopy over a newly installed ADA elevator at Edwards Middle School. We started conducting pre-bids and receiving bids for some of our summer work and contracts. We installed a new LED sign at Bailey Elementary. We've got doors coming, exterior doors for classrooms at Johnson Elementary and Baskerville Elementary that will arrive in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We've installed carpet at Winston Avenue Office Complex and also installed new carpet at Spring Hope Elementary Office Complex. I'd also like to publicly thank this time my staff for their continued hard work and dedication during this time. Questions?
Any questions, Mr. Davis? Thank you.
At this time, Mr. Davis, go back up here. You have 3 items to present.
First item up is surplus property sales. The main points, the board previously approved the property located at 813 Western Avenue to be surplus by using the upset bid process. After 4 rounds of bidding, Mr. Kevin Jones offered a high bid of $5,366.94. The property is being sold as is, and Mr. Jones agreed to pay all real estate closing costs. Fiscal implications, proceeds from the sale will be placed in a capital outlay unallocated fund balance. The superintendent recommends the sale of the property located at 813 Western Avenue to Mr. Kevin Jones for the amount of $5,366.94.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Nash Rocky Mountain Board of Education that the board accepts the $5,366.94 offer from Kevin B. Jones and authorizes the board chairperson and superintendent to execute any document required to transfer title to the property to Kevin B. Jones in an as-is condition. I will need to have this approved. I will recommend looking for a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Visit, second by
James.
Second by Ricky
Jenkins.
Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Second item is 216 South Tillery Street. The board previously approved the property located at 216 Tillery Street to be purchased, to be surplus by using the upset bid process. After 4 rounds of bidding, Mr. Kevin Jones offered a high bid of $4,677.88. The property is being sold as is, and Mr. Jones also agreed to pay all real estate closing costs. Again, the fiscal implications, proceeds from the new sale will be placed in capital outlay unallocated fund balance. The superintendent recommends the sale of the property located at 216 South Tillery Street to Mr. Kevin Jones for the amount of $4,677.88.
Now therefore be it resolved by the National Rocky Mountain Board of Education that the board accepts the $4,677.88 offer from Kevin Jones and authorizes the board chairperson and superintendent to execute any documents required to transfer title to the property to Kevin B. Jones in an as-is condition. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Vincent, second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Thank you. Now, at this time, I would like Mr. Vincent to join Mr. Davis in the architect selection.
Okay, so on April the 1st, board members, you were aware that we had a joint board meeting with Nash County Commissioners to interview 4 of the architectural firms that we had chosen. So we had narrowed those down from, I believe, we had 12 responses. Correct me if I'm wrong, we'll jump in where you need to, Shannon. But we had 12 responses. We narrowed them down to the 4 that you guys voted on. We interviewed those 4 with the questions that were sent out and submitted by you guys and along with some from the Nash County Committee. So before I go any further on that, does anybody have any questions about the interview process or anything for Shannon before I move to the next step? Okay, so at this time, what we've done with the information that we've gathered, Shannon and I have discussed. So I am going to make a motion that we enter into a contract negotiation with the architectural firm of Oakley and Collier for design services of the Red Oak Elementary School.
Second. Motion by Mr. Vincent, second by Mr. Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise.
How about questions?
No.
Questions.
Okay, Mr. Sharp, we're gonna take a roll call vote now that we have a no. But go ahead, Mr. Sharp.
So the question would be I would think that what we should be doing is have a vote as far as who the first priority is going to be and not make a recommendation to the board. That's I think the proper protocol should be. Mr. Malone, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not sure I followed what your question.
My question, yeah, Mr. Bishop made a motion to select Oakley Collier.
Correct.
And I'm thinking that basically that's a motion. Well, man, I might be wrong, but the board should be actually voting on those by see who's got the highest proxy before we make that decision.
Well, here's what I would say. Mr. Bissett made a motion. There was a second. I do think that there should have been discussion, and during that discussion, the discussion can go wherever the discussion goes. Right. But there is a motion and a second to approve. That's right. So the board's discussion can be whatever it ends up being.
Any more discussion? We have a motion, we have a second, we'll do a roll call vote. Lane Dunn?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I vote in support of the motion.
Okay. Chris Vincent?
I'm in support of my own motion.
Evelyn Bullock?
No.
LaShonda Washington?
No.
Donovan Chambers?
Yes.
Ann Ed? Dean Edwards?
I support the motion.
Vicky Jenkins?
Support the motion.
I vote a yes. Bill Sharp?
Go.
Reggie Silver?
I'm sorry, I got
bumped. I'm just getting back on. What are we talking? I'm sorry.
Voting on the motion that was made by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Jenkins. Do you vote yes or no?
I don't know what the motion is. I just said I was bumped, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Bishop, would you read your motion again, please?
Can you hear me, Mr. Silver?
I apologize.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you a little louder.
Okay, so my motion was to enter into a contractual negotiations with the architectural firm of Oakland and Collar for design services of the Red Oak Elementary School.
Can I ask how did you come up with that group? What was it based upon?
How did I come up with it?
Yeah, well, how did you come up with the recommendation? That's what I'm asking.
So through the interviews, and Shannon and I had a discussion, and we just kind of weighed it out and made a decision. And as a board chair, or committee chair for that, I'm making a motion off of those interviews and just all the information we gathered during those interviews.
So your recommendation comes from you, and who else is part of that recommendation? Did Shannon have any?
Yes.
It was you and Shannon?
Yes. You like to chime in, Shannon, or just? Yeah, Shannon's here. You got a question, Shannon?
I'd like to hear from Shannon. Shannon?
I know we're ready for a vote, but I think
Well, the thing is, Mr. Chair, had we paused for a second for discussion prior to the vote, that would have been the proper thing to do. But since we didn't have that opportunity, I think it's fitting that if someone wants to hear from Shannon before he or she places her vote, they should be allowed to do so.
And I do apologize that I was bumped. I've been bumped practically several times tonight. I'm sorry I did not hear the discussion or hear your recommendation. That's why I asked for it.
No discussion.
Oh, no, it was no discussion.
There was a time for discussion.
I'm sorry?
There was a time when Mr. Bishop made his motion for discussion.
See, my discussion was we should have had a discussion before the motion came out.
Or we should have had the discussion after you had the motion and the second. That was the time for discussion, and you moved right on. I didn't need discussion because I knew I did not want to have an architectural firm doing our facility who has no experience at all in building a new school. So I didn't need to say anything. I knew what I was going to vote for, but some of the others have questions, and I think it's only fitting that they be able to ask their questions.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, we've got one more vote to go. Mr. Silver, how do you vote?
No. I want to hear from Shannon.
Well, you got a question for Shannon?
I wanted to hear him talk about how he came up with the idea of what was it that stood out with Collier that he would recommend be part of your recommendation concerning this group.
Okay, you answer that.
With the 4 firms that we interviewed, of course, all 4 were capable of building a new school. But I guess one of the deciding factors for me when narrowing it down to 2, the leading factor was with everything that has gone on with this school building. Oakley Collier has done several projects for this district. The prototype that they're going to use with this facility, we have had no issues. The MEP that they use, we have done work with. And Oakley Collier, at the end of the day, would probably have a more vested interest in building this facility with as much, I guess, at stake as we have at this time.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay, I hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
I asked the same question, Mr. Silva, regarding that and had spoken with Mr. Davis earlier. And my outlook on the selection, he is the one that's going to be in the field, feet on the ground, working every day with whoever we select. So I took his thoughts to heart in making my decisions because I had a lot of questions as well. I just want to make sure the other board members were aware.
And Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment too, please?
Yes, sir.
I have no problem with what we're doing. I just have an issue with the process, how we did it. The process should have been not necessarily making a motion to the board and have this discussion at the beginning. And once we had discussion at the beginning and listen to what maybe Shannon had to say,
Yes.
then maybe we could have had a unanimous vote in how we want to do the process.
I agree with that.
I agree.
I agree as well.
Okay.
So it's almost like they gave the recommendation, but put it in a motion form, huh? Is that what happened?
That's that
They had
way.
a recommendation, put it in a motion, they had time for discussion, and then we took a vote.
So my question is,
A discussion, Frank. You didn't ask for a discussion at the place that it should have been done.
I apologize, Ms. Bullock. The vote's been taken, the motion passed 6-4.
I just want to publicly say and put it on the record, while my only concern about Oakley Collier was that they have not done a school before, I really don't have any other reason to say no. If Shannon is okay with this, then my vote would have been different, but you've not allowed us to have discussion according to Robert's rules. So for me, this vote is really unnecessary. It was not done properly. So therefore, I stand by my no.
But they have done a school before, Ms. Bullock.
Not for us. They have not done a school from start to finish, have they? If so, please tell me where that is.
I think also the discussion is, because I like Oakley as well. I mean, my thing is what Shannon's recommendation all along. But again, it goes back to the process. We gotta follow the rules. We gotta follow the process. And when we don't follow the process and the rules, you get folks, if you notice, we gotta actually, before Mr. Silva even voted, he didn't have to vote because we already had 6 votes. I would have voted for it too after the due diligence in the process. But we gotta make sure we follow the process and the protocols and standards to Robert rules. And so what we did is we didn't do it.
I was trying to get a clear understanding of exactly why we were doing what we did. I was leaning more towards a no. I particularly like the first group that presented the LSLP. I really like them. I could have been sold on Collier. I like what Shannon said, though I didn't quite agree with it. But that's why I ended up voting the way I did. I want to be really clear to make sure that I understood everything. I understood why I was voting the way I voted.
Mr. Chair, may I make a recommendation? Some of our board members probably have not completed Board 101, and it really is important they go back through the procedures of knowing the power of the board, how we work as committees, and how you call for votes and present. I think something is missing there, which isn't making it a very coherent environment for a board to work together. Just my observation.
Thank you.
Ms. Chavis, I agree with you. However, I do think that there are times that we meet as a board that we are not on the same page because things are not clear. I think if we come to meetings with everything being put on the table, with everybody having a clear understanding, and we follow the rules ourselves, I don't think that would be a big issue.
That was my point.
Thank you. This time with number 5, technology, Mr. McQueen. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
All right, I have an item here. Subject of this item here is the contract renewal for the hosted VoIP phones for converged networks. All right. And the strategic priority is priority 3, 21st century professionals, priority 4, 21st century tools and systems, and priority 6, engaged and connected community. And the main point of this item tonight is the Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools has a current 2-year term contract with Converge Networks VoIP service. The contract was an annual cost of $157,515.80. And this contract will end June 30th of 2020. Converge Networks has proposed a 3-year renewal contract at $132,734.40 annually. And this is yielding a yearly cost savings of $24,000. And this contract will begin July 1st, 2020, and will until May 30th of 2023. I think that this company has been very responsive to our needs, and they offer very incredible features that we have been very beneficial to our district as of today. The financial implications, I think that this 3-year contract renewal of $132,734.40 annually, yielding a yearly cost savings of $24,781.40. And so I'm asking the board, the Technology Services is requesting consent from the Board of Education to renew the Converge Network contract to provide VoIP services for our district.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any questions, Mr. McQueen?
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
that includes all maintenance fees?
I didn't hear that.
Does that new price include all maintenance fees
That's correct.
and a new warranty?
And a warranty? This is actually service, not actually hardware.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I got one. About a year ago, we just did some phone work, there was some overlap, some contracts. Are we sure before we vote on this, that our contracts are?
We can talk about this, but there was never an overlap contract for VoIP services.
Okay, so
at all.
something's completely separate.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Chairman Lamb, I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Washington, second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Finance, Ms. Jack. Thank you, Mr. Queen. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board Chair Lamb, board members, Dr. Ellis. I am presenting to you tonight the 2019-2020 budget amendments to the budget resolution that was approved in February. The strategic priority is priority 5, transparent organizational culture, effective use of resources. And Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools will exhibit excellence in financial and facility planning, management, and stewardship. Main points tonight is the amendments are revisions since the February approval, revisions to the 2019-2020 approved budget resolution, and presented according to the provisions of the School Budget and Fiscal Control Act. The fiscal implications are that the funding revisions that I'm presenting tonight, as well as some are budget adjustments, are added to the approved budget resolution to maintain current and accurate budget amounts. This allows reconciliation to ensure expenses do not exceed the adjusted approved budget amounts. So as you will see, the first page is for state public school funds.
We started out, the approved budget was for $97,579,569. And then the total amendment since the February approval is $983,161. And that gives us a current balance as of March 30th of $90,562,729. The differences, the change in the purpose codes are reflected with 349,844 increasing purpose codes 5,000, which is for instructional programs. Then $633,317 increasing the purpose code 6,000, which is supporting services. And below you'll see the various lines that have been adjusted. And where you see the word, the abbreviation REV stands for revision. Those are items that were revisions from the state funding. So let's see. Anyone have questions on those?
Yes, ma'am. How do we compare to what we projected we would see to what we actually got?
Well, we, most cases we projected well. Only we have a few revisions, such as on PRC 14, we had a revision of $2,500 for the Adobe seat licenses, and PRC 16, they took back the $6,297 that was left over from the 2018-19 summer program, summer reading camp.
Okay.
So we'll next go to the local expenses. We really have no change. We have a net zero change, actually. We started out with $23,654,107. We end up the same way. We just had a budget adjustment. We moved, reclassified a salary amount that was in this Purpose Code 6,000 series, moved it into the 5,000 series. During the year, this year, because the budget wasn't approved, we're moving to the federal grant programs. When we first started the budget and during the year, DPI has had a lot of changes and did not have anyone really working on the federal programs. All the federal budgets were submitted on time, but DPI was slow in approving them. So you see a large dollar amount of approvals in the federal side, which increased the budgets for federal total. We started out approved $14,371,521. They have approved budget of additional $897,755. So the current federal budgets, the total budgets for federal programs is $15,269,276. Okay. So.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2019-2020 budget amendment number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by
Donovan.
Second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Jarrett.
You're welcome.
And we're down to number 7, superintendent's report.
So board, what I wanted to do tonight was just share with you, I think it was a month ago, when the governor came out and told us we were closing schools. And what you all saw tonight was a district effort to keep schools moving, keep kids being fed. And I really just wanted to toot the horn of administrators, central office, teachers, the parents, students, support staff, and I hope I don't leave anybody out, nutrition. This place is still running in perilous times that we've never seen. But this group has worked together, although a new way of video conferencing or whatever we do now, but to get this amount of work done in no more than 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks, there's never been an issue of I can't get these people to leave. So they are working hard. They're getting the work done. And tonight, as a superintendent, I just wanted the board to realize this is a great group. They've led this district in a tough time, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. So all educators out there, thank you so much from the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. I would also like to recognize the hard work that's going on from this office and also the teachers. And like I said earlier, we just need for our students to hold up their end of the bargain. It's truly that, you know, children first means a lot to National Rocky Mountain Schools. And we're definitely seeing it now. I'd also like to thank, years ago, the school board that started the one-to-one initiative. Tony Jackson was superintendent then. Jane Finch was IT person then. They need to be thanked. And the school board for having the foresight to see and have the initiative to push forward what we're reaping the benefits of today. We just need to take in consideration that we've got to keep upgrading and doing the right thing that's going to better our school system. Again, I can't say enough of what I've heard tonight. You know, to have that many children at this time going through something that none of us have ever been through and seeing the positive results that this office has started and continue to maintain, where we've seen other school systems that are no way as close as far along as we are. We have some school systems that are cutting out the meal service, and we're extending the meal service through our Easter vacation. Fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Can I just make one comment, please?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say to Dr. Ellis, I know it's a new venture for you, but you're doing a phenomenal job. I think you're rallying the troops around real well. And I appreciate all you're doing, not only inside the district, but also inside our community, getting out and meet and greeting, and especially for your love and your care and support for our children. I'm really excited about the things that you're going to do and how you're working so far. So on behalf of me, I think the board as well, you're doing a phenomenal job. We just want to say thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments at this time? Schedule of upcoming meetings and important dates. The May work session, Monday, May 4th, at 5 o'clock. And the May board meeting, Monday, May 4th at 7. If we continue with closure like we have now, there may be some changing of the times and flexibility, because we do not need to have as much time between two meetings as we did tonight, but we will keep the board and the media updated. Any other comments at this time? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Ms. Washington. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Be
folks.
safe.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.